Hello and welcome back to my chess course, and in this lecture I will show you the game where the bishop is better than the knight. This is the game from Miguel Najdorf and Gideon Stahlberg from the Candidates Tournament played in 1953. Najdorf has a bishop and a rook, and Stahlberg is playing with the rook and the knight. This is the position of this game after black's 25th move. In this position, with mobile pawns on both wings, white's bishops give him an advantage, which however is minimized by the presence of his doubled pawns. White plays rook e4, check, king f8, rook a4 attacking the pawn, a6, rook f4, the f7 pawn is hanging, f6. Generally, the pawns should be placed on squares of opposite color to the bishop, but here we have the exception that qualifies many rule. The move f6 actually increases the range and power of the bishop and allows white at a later stage the possibility of creating a passed pawn. For this reason, knight d6 was the correct move. However, f6 was played. Rook h4, h7 is hanging, h6, rook h5 prevents the mobilization of black's queenside pawns by c5 move. Knight c7, f4, king e7, rook c5, rook d6, protecting the c6 pawn. Black is going to push the pawn to b6. Rook c1. It is only on the next move that white finds the right plan. Here, he should have played f5 to prevent f5 move from black, which if played would considerably reduce his advantage on the king's side. However, after rook c1, black plays b6, f5. This move has a double purpose. It restricts the knight's movements and at the same time prepares the advance of white's pawns. c5, f4, rook c6, a4. It makes possible the opening at a suitable moment of the a file. b5, bishop c2, a strong move. At the moment, bishop e4, winning the pawn, is a threat. The pawn on c5 will be hanging. If, for example, c4 now, then bishop e4, rook to b6 or d6 and then b3. And the pawn on c4 is pinned because of the knight on c7. That's why in this position, knight e8. However, bishop e4, rook c7, bishop d5. The action of the bishop has increased considerably. It is now in a strong position to support the breakthrough e4, e5, while at the same time holding the black pawns on the queen side. c4. Otherwise, white after the maneuver e4, e5, king e3, king e4, bishop e6 and king to d5 would penetrate with his king. c4 was played. However, e4, knight d6, a takes on b5, a takes on b5, king to e3, rook a7. Black has apparently widened the scope for his pieces. Two moves later, however, he is driven back to passive defense. Rook g1, attacking on g7. King f8. Black can't play knight e8, because then bishop c6, winning a pawn. The b5 pawn is hanging, and white is going to take the knight and then to capture the pawn on g7. That's why king f8. King d4, rook c7, rook c1, knight b7, against b3 move, which can now be met by knight c5. However, rook a1, knight c5, rook a8, check, king e7, e5, knight b3, check, king goes to c3, and then black played knight c1. Other defenses are no better. For example, rook c5, rook f7, check, king d8. If king f8, then rook d7. And if king e8, then bishop f7, check, king f8, and e6. That's why in this position king d8, bishop e4, f takes on e5, rook takes on g7, knight d4, f6, knight e6, and bishop f5 wins the game. He can't capture the rook because then the pawn will be promoted. If, for example, f takes on e5 in this position, then f takes on e5, rook c5 now, rook a7 check, king e8, bishop f7, king f8, e6, rook takes on f5, bishop g6, rook e5, and now rook f7. If king goes to e8, then rook f5, winning a rook on e5. And if king goes to g8, then just simply e7, threatening to play rook f8 and e8 equals queen. That's why it was played knight c1 in this position. Rook g8, attacking the pawn, knight e2, check, king goes to d2, knight takes on f4. However, rook takes on g7, check, and after king d8, e takes on f6. Rook d7. If, for example, knight d5 here, then rook g8, and after king goes to d7, just f7, and the pawn will be promoted on the next move. That's why in this position rook d7. However, it doesn't help. Rook takes rook, king takes rook, and here I want you to pause this video and find a winning move. Okay, let's continue. This move was bishop c6. If now king takes, then f7, and the knight is not able to stop the pawn because of the f5 pawn. If king d8, then white captures both pawns, b5 and c4 pawns. Thank you for your attention. That was an example of the game how to play with your bishop against the knight. We will continue in the next lecture.